metropolis, they get the monopolizing time, and that's where that gets into. I wanted to talk about one thing that Coach brought up just now that I somehow got muted, but I wanted to talk to you about that. The private public school deal is a deal, and it's something that really irritates me because it's essentially like, and this is a little bit of what Coach is talking about and what he has to deal with, and all sports have to deal with, because you have these private entities that are controlling their enrollment numbers to be able to stay in whatever class that they want to stay in. And you can do that when you're a private entity. You can play with the numbers all you want to make you in whatever level you want to be at. And public schools don't have that same luxury. It goes off enrollment, and it is what it is. The transfer rules now are kind of the Wild West, with the exception of, you can petition any school to enroll. Even if you don't live in that district, you can petition the school, and they have to come up with a quality reason. And there's actually, those reasons are defined. They have to come up with a reason why they can't. I know UConn just heard its first petition from a kid last school board meeting that was wanting to petition to move in, and they denied it for the simple reason of they just don't have any more room. I often looked at that and wondered. I wonder from a school district perspective, whose kid, sometimes gets preferential treatment here or there, because the private schools are doing it all the time. A kid gets a voucher to attend a private school that costs, $10,000 a year to go to, and his family has no, means to pay for that, but he gets a voucher to go because he's a good athlete or whatever. I mean, that stuff's going on at the private schools, and they have more leeway to get away with it than the public entities. And that's just kind of my soapbox on private schools to begin with. Controlling the enrollment numbers is a real deal, and it irritates me because you have schools that can literally pick and choose and can use their numbers to their advantage, whereas you have like U.S. Grant, for example. They're stuffed in 6A on enrollment numbers, but not necessarily athletic numbers or funding numbers. Yeah. And it's apples and oranges. It makes it difficult. So, Coach, I mean, if you have anything to add to that, but I know that's what you're going through down there, and it just is really one of those things that I see that I don't know how they can get a hold of that, but they need to. They need to make sure that the private
there's been a few
go off the
there's been a few they've been to court, or they've had some discussions anyways about how to deal with it. But the rule change recently was these teams that win consistently or go to state consistently have to jump up a class. Crossings Christian out near Deer Creek won last year, so they got bumped up a class. And what they do, they lost the state finals to Kingfisher this year. I mean, there's so much that we could talk about the private school thing. You said,
right,
they can let anybody in. The issue is they can tell kids no. So, these,
right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Right. So, this voucher deal that's, I get. Yeah, well, the voucher deal that's up for, I guess it's up for a vote or talked about a lot is, I've kind of gone back and forth. I went to private schools and I coached at private schools, and, I always saw it as OSSA, the governing body, and everybody else has eyes on private schools more than anybody else. So if they break a rule, they're going to get found out. So they got to play by the rules. The rules are in their favor, but they do got to play by the rules. But this voucher deal is, like I said, I've gone back and forth because it's like, man, a kid from that's got to go to a school that's not very good has an opportunity to go to private school. Why would we say no? And here's my response. It's because those vouchers, they're not helping the very bottom kids. They're going to help the kids' families that are just short of the private school, tuition. They're not helping the kids at U.S. Grant. They're helping the
Right.
kids that the family is just short just a little bit, and they boost up. So they're still gonna, that voucher system is not, if we have poor schools in Oklahoma City and Oklahoma, if our education is failing, the solution is not the vouchers. I don't know what the solution is, but that seems to only help those that already have a few means and some resources. So it's not fair. And I always say this when my background, like I said, I was at Mount St. Mary's for a few years, and then I went down to Wynnewood, and so the rural schools always kind of talk bad about the private schools, and I always say, you don't have a private school problem, you have a Heritage Hall problem. Those guys have whatever the system is, they have played that system. I mean, completely. I mean, most schools. Man, most schools they'll have a group of kids, of athletes every 3-4 years, and they'll make a run. And then sometimes you have something special like out in Kingfisher, where they're just going to be good for a little while. But private schools, they sort of are there every year. And Kingfisher's winning. I mean, Heritage Hall is winning basketball, football, competitive in baseball every year. And so, their system. I mean, the way they play the system is. It's just unfair. And I understand all the, backlash they get from everybody else, and it's just a weird system. And the other thing I'll say, because lawyers have talked, they try to figure it out. And one solution was put the private schools in their own little league and let them play each other. And that would happen if Bishop McGinnis didn't have all the lawyers and all the money to afford good lawyers, because they won. I mean, they went to court and they won.
Yeah.
So it's just.